Hello, I'm Safi. Welcome to my channel and welcome to my new reading vlog. Today I'm thinking of starting a new reading vlog in which I read new horror books that have come out recently. I can't wait to get started because there's so many horror books that have come out in these last few months that I'm just itching to get to. Also, pardon the lighting. As usual, in the morning, I don't really get much light. Let's just get into some of the possibilities for this vlog, and then I guess I'll choose as I go. But the first book I'm planning on picking up is A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. And yeah, I know this is technically not a horror book, but as far as I've heard, it does have horror elements in it. And horror is one of the categories that it's placed in on Goodreads, one of the genres that appear at the bottom of the page. So I'm choosing to count this because I really want to read it. And apparently it is a bit spooky. So we're gonna count that. I only know that this is like a retelling of the Goose Girl fairy tale, which I don't think I've ever read, so I have no idea what it's about. But it's T. Kingfisher. It's going to be good. I've liked every single book by her that I've read. My favorite being The Hollow Places, which was one of my favorite books last year. So I have really high expectations for this. Next, I'd love to read Compound Fracture by Andrew Joseph White, because I've loved this author's previous books, especially The Spirit Bears Its Teeth. That one was just one of the best books I read last year. As a matter of fact, it was in my top 10. So Hell Followed With Us was also really good, but The Spirit Bears Its Teeth was just beautiful. I adored that book. I might have to reread it at some point, but in the meantime, I really, really want to read Andrew Joseph White's new book. I also have no idea what this one is going to be about. Yeah, I just think it's going to be violent, gory, graphic, like Andrew Joseph White's other books. And yeah, also this is YA, and it's just wild how graphic and gory his books are, despite the fact that they're YA. In that sense, they remind me a little bit of House of Hollow, because there aren't even that many adult horror books that take it that far. So I can't wait to read this one. Hopefully it's going to happen in this vlog. And then another book that I'm like itching to get to, that I just have been wanting to read for a little while now, ever since it came out. I think that was a couple of months ago. I don't exactly remember, but it's My Darling Dreadful Thing by Johanna van Veen. I don't know how it's supposed to be pronounced, but I've been wanting to read this book for quite a while, and yeah, I'm really excited. I've heard such good things about it. Apparently it's gothic, it's sapphic. So yeah, I think these are the books that I would like to get to this week. We will see if I actually manage, and we will see if I actually read these or if I pick up something else, because that might happen. That's the plan, and I'll see you again whenever I have an update. Good morning, vlog. It's the next day, and I'm here with the first update because I actually read the entirety of Compound Fracture between yesterday and this morning. So let's talk about it. This was a 3.5 star, which is a little disappointing. I had this was pretty much a 5-star prediction for me. I think this vlog might be like almost entirely 5-star predictions because so many of the horror books that came out this year are by authors that I've read before and that I've loved before. So I really thought this one would be another 5-star, but unfortunately it was very, very different from The Spirit Bears Its Teeth. And I mean, some people might prefer this, but let's just talk about what this book is about first. Okay, so this book is about Miles, who is a trans and autistic teenager living in a small town in West Virginia. It's a little complicated, and a lot of the plot did go over my head because this is very American and I don't know nearly enough about American history and politics to be able to understand everything that these characters were saying and doing. So apparently Miles comes from a family that's got a bit of a reputation for being a bit rebellious and a little bit like against hierarchies. Like he comes from a socialist family, and that's a problem because the sheriff is on the opposite side of the politics spectrum, let's put it like that. He's very conservative, and obviously they don't get along. Plus they have a whole history of their families being in a sort of rivalry with each other, and one of Miles's ancestors was actually a bit of a martyr for a riot that happened, and he was killed by one of the sheriff's ancestors. Still today, the two families don't get along, and they are just pretty much always in conflict. The plot starts like this, with Miles finding some information about an accident that happened involving his dad and a few of the other people in the town that got either killed or severely injured. And apparently he finds proof that the sheriff is responsible for this incident, for this catastrophe. So yeah, he gets threatened when he makes a step towards divulging the information that he has, and he gets beaten up by the son of the sheriff plus a couple of other kids that hang out with him. So that's the starting point. And then things just become bigger and bigger and bigger, and there's a lot of heavy things that happen in this book. This is not an easy read, for sure. It was actually kind of challenging, not for the amount of violence, because actually, like, there's a lot of violence in this, of course. But the amount of gore actually is much lower in this book than in White's other books. So, as a matter of fact, I think this could rather be considered a thriller than a horror. There was just like one horror element in this, which wasn't really scary or anything. Like there's this ghost type thing. We never really find out, I don't think, if they're real or not, but there's a presence, there is an entity in this book, which is the only horror element, but they're not like an evil entity. They're not scary or anything. They're just kind of there, watching over things, pretty much. So even just the fact that this was more of a thriller than a horror, I have had such a hard time with thrillers this year. I'm trying. I swear, I am trying to enjoy thrillers again, and I just can't for the life of me. I think that the only book that could be described as a thriller that I have enjoyed this year is The Last House on Needless Street. But that's like a bit of a cross between psychological thriller and horror, so I don't know if it counts. But yeah, that's the closest thing that I got to a thriller that I have enjoyed. Every single other thriller that I read this year was just a bit of a letdown, if not a lot of a letdown. So yeah, plus of course it's YA, but like the characters are literally kids. They're 16 and they're doing this crazy shit like at 16. Like, I don't know. I have never been to the USA. I have never been to the American continent even. So I have no idea what the reality of growing up in a small town in West Virginia is. But doing this stuff at 16 when they're supposed to just, you know, be a kid who goes to school, like I thought that the biggest troubles that one might have to confront at this age could be like bullying and not being accepted and even fights. But like this went a lot further than that. And I don't know. It did not feel realistic to me but it might be because I just come from a completely different reality and I just can't comprehend certain things happening with teenagers. This was just okay. Like, I did not love the plot. It had way too much action, way too much over-the-top things going on. The characters, some of them were very complex and very nuanced. And some others just felt like pantomimes, like parodies of real people, which is such a shame. There's a dog, and she was the best character. And she does not die. So that's an extra point for this book. As I said, it can be for other people. It just really wasn't for me. It says raving reviews. So it's definitely me being in the minority here. But yeah, that's all about this. Now, let's move on to what I'm going to be reading next. Now, this time I'm actually considering starting this as my next read. Will I? Yeah, come on. I have to. I have to do it. I have the audiobook from the library. I just need to read this before I have to return it. I'm going to start this book, like, in a minute. But first, I just wanted to mention that today I'm going into town to meet a friend and we're going to shop for Halloween costumes because we've been invited to a Halloween party on Saturday evening and I can't wait. It's going to be so fun. If I purchase something, which I probably will, I'll show you, I guess, what I got when I come back. But yeah, that's later today. For now, this book is my plan and also maybe lunch. So yeah, I'll see you when I've started reading A Sorceress Comes to Call. It's currently the next day. It's Thursday afternoon. I'm about to head to work, but I do have a few minutes to tell you that I have finished. I have read the entirety of A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. So this book probably is getting like a 4-star from me. Not my favorite T. Kingfisher, but I did like it. I thought it was fun. This was the story of a girl called Cordelia, whose mother is a sorceress, or they call her a sorcerer throughout the book, so I guess. And she's an evil one at that, because she uses her magic to control her daughter and make her do anything that she wants her to do. So like she can control other people's bodies like they were puppets. They obviously have not the best of relationships, and Cordelia is just really a sad child. Like, she is 14, I think, when the story starts, and like her chapters are so sad. They are living in pretty poor conditions. Like, they're not living on the street, but they still are struggling a little bit. So what Cordelia's mother, whose name is Evangeline, or Evangeline, I don't know, comes up with is she's going to go off and marry a rich man, because the one that she was currently having a relationship with breaks up with her. But she also wants her daughter Cordelia to marry a rich man, and it doesn't even matter who this man is, just as long as he's rich, right? So that she can take advantage of that. So they travel to this mansion where this rich family, like there's this rich bachelor who lives there with his sister, and she intends on marrying him. Like the people at the house, especially the sister, he doesn't notice anything. He's a man, what do you expect? The sister, Hester, the sister of the bachelor, notices that there is something wrong, and she starts to investigate, and she and Cordelia start getting closer to each other. I am terrible at telling plots, which is not a good thing since I'm kind of here to do just that, but hopefully that wasn't too confusing. I enjoyed it. It just wasn't really my type of story. I prefer Taking Fisher's stories that lean a bit more into horror, although this did have a few horror elements. It was mostly just fantasy / fairy tale retelling. So, and I mean, the setting of this one really didn't do anything for me. I'm just not a huge fan of things set in like rich people's mansions or whatever, and gossip and ladies and gentlemen and things happening in high society. It's not my thing. But the story was entertaining enough, so, and it was a nice story. I would recommend it. It wasn't like mind-blowing, but it wasn't bad either. And I love Taking Fisher's humor. Like, she makes me like actually giggle when I'm reading her stories. There aren't that many other authors that can do that. Now, as far as for what I want to read next, I looked at what was available either on Libby or on Everend, and I have a couple of books that I might pick. And those are these two. We have Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle and The Bug Wife by Kay Cronister. Now, both of these are relatively new. They came out this year. So I am pretty excited about both of them, though if I really have to speak my truth, this is the one that I want to go for. I've read a Chuck Tingle before and I loved it. I read Camp Damascus by him, which was excellent. And I've heard that this one is like even better. So yeah, I can't wait to read it. And I saw that the audiobook is available on Everend. This one, I mean, I am interested in it. Obviously, I bought it, but I don't know much about it. I just know that it's gothic, and I saw that the people that read it really, really liked it. This cover isn't doing anything for me. I kind of hate it. Like, this is supposed to be gothic horror. This isn't giving gothic horror. I do want to read this one too, but might actually end up in a later vlog. I'm probably going to start this one. As far as the Halloween costume hunt yesterday, like me and my friend had a lot of fun looking for Halloween costumes, and we had the coffee together, a pumpkin latte, and it was delicious, but we didn't really find any satisfying Halloween costumes, unfortunately. Like, we had a lot of fun seeing all of the ridiculous things that they had in stores and all of the ridiculous names that they found to escape copyright on some things. They didn't really have much for adults to begin with, and the few things that they had were either really expensive, the wrongest sizes for us, so. But a thing that I did find, and that I want to show you because it's very cool, it's this jacket, which, I don't know, I really like it. It's like this brown, red, like very dark color. I just thought it was really cool. So not quite a Halloween costume, but I did find something at least. I think that is all for now. I guess you'll find out what I decided to read in my next update. It's currently Saturday morning and I'm here to do a little update because I finished Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle, this book right here. And I really enjoyed it. I am so happy that I found a book that I really loved in this vlog, because the two other books that I read for this vlog were not my favorites. They weren't bad, but they were just okay. So yeah, I'm happy that I found something that I love here as well. So let me just tell you about this book. So Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle is about Misha, who is a screenwriter in Hollywood, and he's been just nominated for his very first Oscar, which obviously is a big thing. So the board or the executives at the studio he works at see this as an opportunity to step up his career. And in order to do that, they want him to kill off the two main characters of his series, which is a sapphic couple. So two women who are together. And he doesn't want to do that because he's fed up with queer tragedies. He wants to bring queer joy instead. And so he tries to refuse. And when he does that, a lot of bad things start happening. Some horrors are unleashed. They look like some of the villains from this screenwriter's horror stories, which is not a new concept. I know there's others that have done this before, that have made characters come to life from books and movies and media. So that's not the new concept, but the way in which it's done and the characters themselves are actually pretty cool and original. Like, I wanted more. Wish we had gotten even more characters from his horror stories because they were all so interesting. Also, this has a pretty big sci-fi element in it, which I was not expecting at all. But that was really cool and interesting. So yeah, I loved it. Also, the main character himself is gay and he has, he has a boyfriend and his best friend is asexual. So I love to see asexual rep in books. There is so little of it and they talk about it in the novel as well. It was good to see and I loved all three of the main characters, although I feel like Misha's boyfriend could have had a little bit more of character development. He was the only character that kind of felt a bit flat, if I have to be 100% honest. Like, Misha himself was well-rounded, really good character development, and Tara, the friend, was incredible. I loved her. I loved her so much. But the boyfriend was a bit just there. but that's okay. That's all right. Not every single character in a story needs to have the most important role. This was really good. I gave it 5 stars. Like, it's not maybe like as much of a 5-star as some of my other ones, but you know, I just had to give it 5 stars for what it made me feel while I was reading it. Like, I literally couldn't put it down. I was making lunch yesterday and I just wanted to keep reading this book. Like, I hurried through lunch because I didn't want to get sauce on the book. Otherwise, I would have continued reading. And then I went right back to it and I read this whole book in 1 day. So I would definitely recommend it. This was great. And I mean, I had read Camp Damascus by Chuck Tingle before, which I really loved, but this one was even better. I just loved this book so much. So highly, highly recommend this one. So I think that's it for the vlog, and maybe on Sunday I will start a new vlog, because next week I'm planning on reading horror novellas. I have a bunch which I've saved up specifically for next week. I might or might not insert some footage of Halloween celebrations in here, because I'm going to a party tonight with a few friends. I don't know if y'all are ready to see it, but here is my Halloween costume. I'm a serial killer. Yeah, I am very happy with this. Let me see if I can get the whole thing. Yeah, that's my vacuum cleaner, don't mind that. Ta-da! I am so happy. But yeah, that's it. To recap and close up this vlog, let's see what I read this week. Okay, so here we go. These are the 3 books that I've read. And Bury Your Gaze was my favorite, 5 stars. Then A Sorceress Comes to Call was a bit mid, not my favorite. Taking Fisher, I gave it 4 stars. But if I have to be honest, it's more like a 3.5 probably, because it just wasn't really it for me. Like, it was enjoyable, but kind of forgettable a little bit, unfortunately. And I did not love the setting, just not my type of setting. And then Compound Fracture by Andrew Joseph White, which was a 3 star. It was also just okay. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It was just fine. So yeah, that's all for this week. I hope you've enjoyed this little vlog, even though there wasn't almost any B-roll in this one, or was there any at all? Sorry about that. If you've made it to this part of the vlog, I appreciate you. And just feel free to leave a like, subscribe, maybe leave me a comment and tell me, what was your last disappointing read? What was the last book that you were anticipating that disappointed you? Yeah, I think that will be all for this week, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!